Howdy there, music maker. Recently, I've had a lot of students asking me how do they get from the lower part of the neck up to the higher part of the neck or back down when they are taking solos. A couple of students even asked, like, is this a stupid question? And first off, no, this is not a stupid question at all. Part of learning to navigate the guitar is to take low register things and move them to a high register. This is for intermediate and advanced type players. I would say if you're in the beginning phase, you don't really need to worry about this. But if you've got a little bit of scale knowledge and you've got a little bit of triad knowledge, today's lesson is going to help you successfully navigate from a low region of the neck to the high, or vice versa. First off, let's talk about something in the key of G. The first thing that I would like us to hone in on here is a G major triad. When you're playing over a 1 chord, there are 3 notes that will always sound really good: G, B, and D. That's the root, major third, and perfect fifth of a G major triad. Now, a lot of us probably know this G major triad shape right here, right? Might call it an F shape, especially if you bar across the top there. But for now, we're just going to focus on those 3 notes because this is what we call a root position triad. We've got the root note in the lowest voice, then the third, then the fifth, all in order, low to high. So each one of those notes, in my opinion, has a really good shifting lane, I like to think about it, when moving up or down the neck. So for example, if we're looking at this root position triad here, and we want to shift up the neck, a really logical lane or series of notes to pass through to get up the neck would be using the second, that A note, to get us up to the next chord tone, the third or B note of our G chord. So if we're in this G major triad, see what I did there? I slid from my root up to my second, and then root, second, third. This is a move that I make all of the time, and you're honestly going to find a lot of your favorite guitar players making. So shifting lane number 1, root moves to second, second moves to third. And then once we're up there, check it out. I'm in that C-shaped position up the neck, ready to bust out my favorite, So I've successfully moved from the root up to the third, and that was a great shifting lane. Now, we just have to find the other shifting lanes for the rest of our chord tones. So say we're on the third of the chord in this low position. I really like to use the fourth to get up there. 3, 4, 5, slide up. As you're noticing, you kind of have to figure out some crafty ways to kind of change your fingering on the way or once you get to your destination, and each situation is going to be a little different. So typically what I do is shift up, leave a little bit of space, then reset myself in that position. This is one of those scenarios where I think that works best. Say I'm soloing on this G chord triad. So it was kind of a similar move. I'm soloing, my middle finger is on this chord tone. I use my ring finger to get me up to that D note, index finger, ring finger, up to the E note, and then back to the D note. So it's like you kind of have to find some shifty ways and use extra notes in the scale to kind of blur the edges, so people don't see that stark shift, but it ends up sounding pretty nice. Like, no one's going to argue with that. So that's a really good way to move up and down the neck. Go back down that same way. So many ways that you can kind of find through there. But using one string, like I said, a shifting lane from chord tone to chord tone, really great way. The next note we can kind of focus on here is this D note. And this D note is special, right? Because between the D note and our next chord tone, the root note, G, there are actually 2 scale tones that we could focus on. We've got that E note and that F sharp. I generally tend to avoid the F sharp, especially if I'm just on a G chord there, I just go straight up to that root note. But there could be some scenarios where that F sharp might come in handy. And sometimes, like I was doing with that last chord tone, the third to the fifth, it's good to like overshoot the target note so that you can get your hand in the proper position. So I don't really like that note there because I want my middle finger on that G note so I can get into that C position. So I might do something like this. So a number of different ways you can shift up there. One thing you could even do at the beginning, get into that pinky position, and then you're back at your root note. So there's no exact science to this. You just kind of have to use your ear and your best sensibilities in the moment to do this. But in my opinion, working from chord tone to chord tone up one string and developing that shifting lane like I'm talking about is a really great idea if you're concerned with moving from a low region of the neck to a high region of the neck. Let's put these things into practice. I'm going to put a backing track on here, and I'm going to give you 3 different phrases that you can use to specifically practice shifting from G's to B's, B's to D's, and D's to G's. So we're just going to set up a G chord backing track. Here we go. Third to fifth. So there you have it, my friend. 3 phrases that you can practice on that G major triad to get you up the neck into that next position. Now, these obviously are working from that E shape or F shape, however you want to think about that, up to that C shape kind of G. But the principles apply no matter which type of shape you're on. Roots will move to thirds in the same way, thirds will move to fifths in the same way, and fifths to roots. Let's do this on a C chord just to see how that works out. Maybe go from this C triad up to this one. So you can see those phrases are perfectly tailored once again in the exact same way to move us from C to C triad. Some of you may have noticed that when I was shifting using those notes, I was throwing an F sharp in there. That's because I'm kind of viewing this C chord as functioning in the key of G. But if you were in a C tune, you would replace that F sharp with an F. So there it is right there. But in the key of G, I would probably do this. If theoretically that's over your head right now, don't worry about it. Just know that in the key of G, you're going to use that F sharp. In the key of C, you're going to use that F. And guess what? If you use the F note in the key of G, nobody's going to notice. If you're looking for a PDF of these phrases to kind of practice along with, I would go ahead and check out that link below in the description to sign up for my Bluegrass Survival Kit. That's kind of like a dumping ground for all of these tools and tricks that I'm trying to give to all of my private students and guitar club members. And by the way, if you want access to 5 Zoom calls with me every month so you can ask me questions about shifting lanes or any of these other kind of issues, go ahead and check out the link below in the description to my guitar club, hayesgriffin.club. Lastly, I just want to thank the folks at Schertler Microphones and Amps. Really great Swiss company. I'm actually running their Schertler AG6 magnetic pickup and the Schertler P48 Dyne G contact microphone into my Schertler Jam amplifier. This is a new bit of gear for me, and you're probably going to see it a lot more in these YouTube videos because I really love the sound of their microphones. So go ahead and check out Schertler.com below in the description. All right, my friends, thanks so much for checking this video out. Don't go anywhere. We got more great guitar lessons right here.